Sips and Ish, Alex Nepa here. This is my very first video version of this podcast in a long time, actually, since we started. Sips and Ish is not dead. Just want to give you guys a heads up there. Got some big plans for it, just a bunch of changes, and I wanted to talk you through that to kick off the podcast. So if you listen to my last podcast, it was what's next for Sips and Ish, or is this the end of Sips and Ish? And I said definitely not, and I wasn't lying. Here we are. We're back. But here's going to be the new format. Once a month, we're going to do a guest. We're going to do it live, too, on a Thursday at noon. So Thursday at noon, once a month, we're going to do a guest. We're going to have a drink. So Thursday at noon, we're going to be drinking some booze, kicking off the weekend early. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a very similar chat with our guests the way we did it last time as well. So just in-depth questions, kind of going through their career, their hardships, their successes, their failures, things like that, and just kind of I always want these conversations on Sips and Ish to feel like they're a conversation at a bar, which is why we drink, which is why I did it late at night. We'll see how well that translates at noon. But I'm hoping it works out well, and I'm looking forward to the interactivity of, doing it live and having people tune in live and hit us with questions and everything like that. As long as it doesn't disrupt the organic feel, I guess, of the conversation. So that's something I don't want. But guys, cheers. I do have a topic today, and it's a topic that was bred out of, like a lot of times you hear talk online, you hear about people, that might want to start getting into weddings. And, because of the money, I guess, which is not necessarily the best reason to do it, but it's probably a reason why a lot of us do it, especially coming from nightlife. And it's definitely the reason why I did it too. So the big thing I want to talk about here is when weddings truly clicked for me and began being fun. And, as somebody that wants to be an artist, which I do, I'm a DJ, I'm creative, I play other people's music, but I like to do it in a way that's different, that feels different. And that's me. So whether that's like doing some wordplay or tone play or, just kind of editing something together, a mashup. A lot of that I do on my own, and a lot of them too I find online and scour online to find the coolest edits and mixes of songs. And, about 90% of what I play is, an edit that I've made, even if it's somebody else's remix. Like I've edited it down to the way I play it. So some background on me, if you don't know, I started with weddings in the early 2000s. Realistically, I started in the late 90s, but I never did a wedding on my own. I was always a shadow or an assistant or, grunts to carry in like Rectra, crates of records or cables, or in some cases props, because I worked for somebody that would be considered cheesy and used props for group dances in our interactivity. But yeah, so I started my first wedding, I want to say was 2002 or 2003. And just like a lot of things in life, I was kind of thrust into it. I was doing fraternities, bars, and clubs. And, a couple had gotten wind that their, hunch that their wedding DJ might no-show. It was a Penn State weekend, and that DJ had Penn State tickets. And it's kind of like an unfortunate part of our industry where this actually does happen. It's sucky, and it's a reputation that I've worked hard to kind of build up in mentoring other DJs. Every wedding, to quote Nick Spinelli, every wedding is a Super Bowl. So not showing up to a wedding is not an option. Like family emergencies, you're on your deathbed in a hospital. Those are the reasons. Literally the only reasons that you don't show up to a wedding. If you've given your word, or hopefully on the flip side, signed a contract, you're going to show up to that wedding. You're going to do it right. I mean, I've had situations where I've had to put another DJ in early because I've had an emergency, and I've had to show up to a wedding a little bit later, but the music is uninterrupted. The setup is uninterrupted. And those are extreme examples. 3 times in my career, 3 times in my 20-plus year career that I've had to do that myself. And I've made it right every time, for sure. So, and again, I've never no-showed. There's never been an instance where I've called somebody to be sorry, can't do it. It's always been filled. Always, every single time. And I'm talking about extreme emergencies in these situations. So that's first comes first. I mean, and that should go without saying. Sign a contract, honor your contract, or else your business is going to be short-lived. No way. You can't sustain a wedding business by no showing or baiting and switching. That just goes with it. But really, this conversation isn't about that. I could talk about that another time. This conversation is when weddings really started getting fun for me. So we'll talk about my early career with weddings, and at least my experience with them, being a club guy or a bar guy, or somebody that played primarily new music. When I first started booking weddings, and like so after that first wedding in 2002 or 2003, I want to say it was 2002. After that first wedding, I saw the dollar signs, and I was like, okay, I want to do more of this. And I kind of jumped right in. I started doing anywhere from 30 plus weddings a year in 2003 and then beyond. And that's kind of where it went. So I'm like 20 years into the wedding business. And, the first year you're kind of like, I always rock the party. Like when it came down to the dancing, like I always knew what to play. And maybe that was because I started off with a cheesier wedding DJ where I had that knowledge of watching him do his thing, like, and starting off with, songs like Great Balls of Fire and, Brown Eyed Girl and Shout and Twist and Shout and all that stuff, all the classic oldies. So when I first started doing weddings, I kind of felt like I needed to do that. Like that was like, it wasn't what I loved to do, but it packed my floor, and like it was kind of what was expected of a wedding DJ then. And I want to say for the first like 8 years I DJ'd weddings, like up until maybe 2010, I was a good wedding DJ. Like I always got compliments and kept on getting booked. But realistically, like I was doing what I thought a wedding DJ should do. So I was like playing this character of a wedding DJ. I was strong on the microphone for introductions, and I played party hits, and I didn't mix sometimes, because they didn't have quantized versions of these songs, and I didn't know how to make them myself. And I was playing off of CDs in some cases. So I was just playing this character of what I thought a wedding DJ needed to be. And I think that character was good. I think I played a pretty good character and did a good job of being what I thought a wedding DJ needed to be. But it wasn't until I think it was like maybe 2010, 2011, where I had been pretty established in the nightlife scene here at Penn State. And throughout my entire career, I have always been like, a lot of my wedding clients hire me because they saw me at the bars at Penn State. And what I brought to weddings wasn't necessarily like the same thing or a similar thing, even though like it's still not the same exact thing because you've got guests of all ages. But I wasn't replicating the Alex Neppa brand at weddings in the same way I was at nightlife events. So it wasn't until like 2010 or 2011 when a couple hired me, and it kind of clicked, where we went over music just like we always do, face to face sometimes, Skype and Zoom back then, or even phone. But I talked to the couple, and they kind of went into like some pretty deep detail about like music during the open dancing. And they're like, hey, we don't want like all the normal wedding stuff. We don't want line dances. We don't want the super old oldies. We want some songs sprinkled in for our older guests, but and do it the way you do it at a bar or a club, because that's why we hired you. Because I have always been open format. And I've always played across genres and across decades and eras. And that was when it clicked to me. I was like, that's interesting. That's different than the way I've done it. Like I'm not saying it was always chronological, but back in the day, like I would play an oldie set first to feel people out, and the old heads would be on the dance floor. And that's cool. I want people of all ages on the dance floor at all times. But that's just the way I thought I needed to do it, because I was playing this character of what I believed a wedding DJ was. So I DJ'd this wedding, and it was probably one of the most lit weddings I had done up until that time in my career. And I did it kind of the way I would play at a bar or club. I was playing older stuff, a lot of newer stuff, but I was mixing it together. I was being creative. And looking at my dance floor that night, the same amount of older guests were dancing as if I was playing that other wedding DJ character. I keep on saying character, but hopefully you get what I'm saying here. So that's when it kind of clicked to me, like, where like, yo, I could do me at a wedding and like represent like a brand that I want to be instead of a brand I'm trying to pretend to be. I could be authentic. I can do some cool shit, and people are gonna dig it. And let's talk about rates too. Like in 2010, I'm actually a member of like a couple professional wedding groups, and they've got Facebook groups, which is usually the only reason I log on to Facebook is to talk to other professionals that I know and respect about things. So I keep everything in like Dropbox and like even historic marketing materials, things that like I'll never use again, but it's cool to look back. It's like a like almost like a digital scrapbook of my career. And I look back to my 2011 price sheet. Maybe it was, yeah, 2011, 2011 pricing sheet. And my pricing for weddings, for me, started at $695. So I mean, looking at what my rates are now, like the professional growth, not only in terms of me being more creative, me getting better every year as a talent, which, I'm not trying to brag. It's just, hey, I do this. I practice. I've got a DJ set up right behind me that I rip up on 2 or 3 times a week. If I have an idea for a routine or something that I want to make part of my shows, I'm going to go back there and perfect it. I'm also, on a Mac here where like, if it's something that I can't do live, like I'm going to make a cool edit and keep it just for me, a show edit. I'm not going to put it up on every record pool. But talking about pricing, like it's wild to see that increase in prices over just 10 years. Realistically, I mean that I'm like, and I don't 4x that price now. And yeah, that does kind of take me out of the price range if some people are working within budgets, but realistically, if people want you, they're going to pay for you. And I know that I've got a lot of my wedding clients that listen to this podcast, and hopefully I prove my value to you. Actually, I'm 100% confident that I'm going to prove my value to you. But I'm going to go back to that lower price point too. That's good money. Like, so I mean, like, let's say in a bar, like back in 10 years ago, I was making $250, $300 a night on a Saturday. Like, I mean, okay, then cool. I've doubled that. So in that was always like fine for me. I was like, oh, well, I'm doubling what I'd make in a bar like that night. So cool. Granted, a wedding day is a much longer, but like I wasn't really giving it like my all at weddings, like until like this one wedding that I mentioned where they said, hey, do you? And like even then for like a year or two after that, like I wanted to do me after seeing that, but I wasn't sure that that's what clients wanted because I didn't truly believe in it. But somewhere along the way, like people just started booking me because they saw me at the bars and clubs and heard my mixes online, and my reputation became like, hey, they want Alex Nepa or DJ Kid AV which was my previous name. And the name change where I changed from DJ Kid AV to DJ Alex Nepa was primarily because like I started having a lot of fun at weddings, and that became my focus. I'm like, yo, I want to grow this. I want to do better. I want this to be my career. And yeah, that's for me, and that's fine. It's my life. But it's also like a benefit for my clients too, because I started putting more and more into it. I started making more show edits for weddings, whereas like I wouldn't really do that before. I'd use generic wedding music. So I started developing my own talent. I started growing as a talent for weddings, and I started really digging it because I saw the results on the dance floor, and I also saw the financial results on my bank accounts. So life got better, and doing weddings just became a ton of fun. And slowly but surely, because success equals consistency and longevity. So slowly over time, like I started getting the rate that I feel like I deserved, and then started getting booked by people that weren't just looking for a filler wedding DJ or somebody to play music. They wanted a killer party. They wanted an event host early that was going to move along all the formalities with the respect and honor they deserve. But when it came down to throwing a party, they wanted the best. And that's what I really feel I deliver. I mean, say what you want. I'm going to say it straight up. And I think anybody that does weddings at a high level should think this. I personally think I'm one of the best wedding DJs in the country. I'm not like, cool. You show some hate if you want. That's fine. But I believe that. And I believe in what I deliver. I believe in the value that I deliver. I believe that every wedding is going to be amazing. I believe that every wedding is going to have a killer dance party, and they deserve that. And that's why I'm booking fast, and that's why I'm getting the rate that I get over the course of many years. So getting down into the advice portion of it, really, so if you're a bar or club DJ that's like getting into weddings, and you're getting into it, for the same reason we all do, like it's a good payday. It also like if I'm gonna be honest with you, like weddings usually end at 11 p.m. and I like that. I mean, they're earlier days too, and they're longer days, but I like ending at 11, packing up, going home, having a nightcap, and not being exhausted the next day when I want to hang out with my 4-year-old. So, but the advice portion is okay. So going into like, let's say you're doing clubs, you're starting to dabble into weddings, and you're having fun, and but like you haven't quite found yourself yet. You haven't quite found your brand. You're just DJing weddings because they're more money than you'd get at a bar or a club. My advice to you is just start doing you. Do you earlier. I mean, definitely don't go all in on you. And what I say there is like at a club, even in a city club or a big club, your guests are usually gonna be under 25. Now, if you're playing a party bar, maybe 35. And that's cool because that's the age ranges of a wedding party. Usually, the wedding party, the guy's side and the girl's side, average between 25 and 35. So you're kind of in your element there, at least for that portion. But you've also got grandma, you've also got mom, you've got aunts and uncles. I'm not a big fan of kids at weddings, but sometimes you even have kids. And kids can be dance floor kryptonite sometimes. So you got to do it right. You got to be tasteful. But realistically, the people that you're catering to are their wedding party and their closest friends. So, if you can do you and be creative and have fun with it, but also, get some of the older people out there with some oldies sprinkled in the right way, you're going to start having fun. And in doing that, assuming you get it, and you've got the it factor to make it happen, you're going to start seeing more and more bookings, even without pretty setups. You don't need the bun booth, or you don't need the Toadmatic or Horboard furniture, whatever to start. You want to start from the ground up, and you're going to have so much fun. You're going to have more fun at weddings because you're doing you. Couples are going to get it. The people that get it will get it, and they will book you more and more. And you will build yourself a career. Now, it takes time. My rate didn't get to where it is, which is starting at $2,900, starting, right away. That's something that took time. It took time for me to build up my own confidence, and it took time for me to build up the referral network with couples, people who have seen me at weddings, wedding planners, photographers, venues. You've got to have that total package, and that's what kind of like the it factor is. The it factor is being able to speak clearly, dress well, get some custom suits, get a style that reflects you. You can wear sneakers at weddings, but own it. Don't be the generic wedding DJ. There's just 1,000 different pieces. And your marketing materials and how you talk to couples that reach out to you are a big part of that as well. But I'm talking about solely on performance here. Start doing you, whatever you is. And sometimes like I know DJs in the Midwest that do the love story thing, and they do it eloquently, and they really touch their couples' hearts by doing that. That's not me. I couldn't do it. So you have to be authentically you and build the brand that you want to build, and then the reputation will follow. Referrals will follow. Your enjoyment of it will follow as a creative, and the financial path will follow too. But don't be afraid to make those jumps. And my jumps just happen to be incremental. I think the past, it's supply and demand. 2022 and 2023 are just insane. And 2024, I'm already getting reached out to for weddings, so that's going to be insane too. So it's got to do with supply and demand too. That's part of it. But your talent rate is your talent rate. And then all the extras are all the extras. But guys, pumped about the future of Sips and Ish. Glad to record this episode for you. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hit me up on the DMs on Instagram at DJ Alex Nepa. And as always, like and subscribe to this. If you're watching on Spotify, you're actually watching a video version of me. My brand new office, guys. I'm digging it. So I'm looking forward to a lot more of these. I need to line up my guests, so I can't guarantee when the next episode is going to be, but I will let you know. And I have a couple ideas of who I want to talk to for sure. But guys, have a great weekend. Alex Nepa, Sips and Ish.